Welcome back to Tipping Point. I'm your host, Dana Alexa, filling in for Kara McKinney. The Democrat lawfare against President Trump continues today in New York City. Instead of campaigning for the upcoming presidential election in November, Trump is in a courthouse today, dealing with jury selection for the nakedly partisan sham trial about alleged hush money payments made to porn star Stormy Daniels. The story is still developing and new information keeps coming to light, so we'll do our best to keep everyone updated. But this is obviously a very dark day in our country's history. President Trump is the first former U.S. president to face a criminal trial, and today's proceedings in the Big Apple are all thanks to Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg, an overtly partisan prosecutor who promised to indict Trump while running for office. Bragg also raised a misdemeanor charge to a felony, even though he lowered more than half of the felonies committed within his jurisdiction last year. Double standard of justice, am I right? In addition, the judge overseeing the case, Judge Juan Merchant, has donated money to Joe Biden, while his own daughter has raised money for Democrat politicians, including the likes of Adam Schiff. Lovely. It's no surprise to see this trial happening now, obviously, with the backdrop of the next presidential race, and many Americans can see right through this attempt to seemingly damage his campaign and his chances of being reelected. That's why large crowds of people, like the one you see on your screen, outside of the courthouse today, repeatedly chanting the phrase, "Donald Trump did nothing wrong." And while those brave patriots lawfully and peacefully express their opposition to the partisan lawfare, let's review the key details about this case. President Trump is charged with 34 counts of allegedly falsifying business records to hide an agreement with other parties to unlawfully influence the outcome of the 2016 presidential election. The prosecution alleges that he orchestrated a payment of $130,000 to porn star Stormy Daniels after she allegedly threatened to publicly accuse him of having an affair with her before the 2016 election. He's also accused of working with other people to bury the story, but none of this has been proved in a court of law yet, and Trump has pleaded not guilty to all the charges. Trump could theoretically face jail time if the jury finds him guilty. And speaking of, I find it extremely difficult to believe that the judge will be able to find 12 jurors who are totally unbiased against him in New York City. These jurors alone will decide if he's innocent or guilty, but given the liberal nature of New York City, I doubt this will be a fair trial by a jury of his peers, and I suspect personal animus will play a big role. They're doing everything possible they can to stack the cards against him and damage his reputation with voters right before the next presidential election to the benefit of Joe Biden, which seems like election interference. It's one of the darkest days in our nation's history, and my thoughts and prayers are with President Trump today. Joining us now for more, Josh Hammer, the senior editor at large for Newsweek. Josh, thanks for being here tonight. Extremely dark day in our country's history, as I just outlined in my intro. And before we get to the nitty-gritty, what do you make of the start of the hush money trial in New York City? What are you looking out for? Any key details?
It's a day that many of us rued and feared. So after Alvin Bragg first came out swinging with his indictment just over a year ago now, I wrote my weekly column that week titled "The Point of No Return," and I literally began that column talking about Caesar crossing the Rubicon over 2,000 years ago, because that is very much what is happening now. And you are seeing the first criminal prosecution. I mean, I cannot overstate this very basic rudimentary point before getting into the weeds here, is that this is the first criminal prosecution of a former president, let alone a former president who was simultaneously a current candidate for the presidential nomination of a major party in our nation's history. And you really do have to wonder at this point what exactly it is that separates America from the various other countries that have started to go down this rabbit hole of prosecuting in naked, brazen, out in the open fashion your political opposition. That's what they do in various South American, Latin American dictatorships. They do it in sub-Saharan Africa. And it's just really, really tragic. I mean, I'm a lawyer myself. I clerked on the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit. I'm still barred as an attorney. And it just makes me very sad that this is what the rule of law and what justice has become in America, frankly.
With your law background, explain to me we know Alvin Bragg's personal reasons for elevating this to felony charges now, but what is the legal justification for all of this?